standing start today. So allow yourself to have a block close by to the side of your mat and 2 bricks towards the front end. We're not going to use them a lot in the class, but they will be needed up there when they're required. And we'll start just in mountain pose, Tadasana. So I allow myself to have my feet hip distance apart and the feet parallel when I take my mountain pose. Some people like the feet together. It's a personal choice, really. And then I put a little tiny bend in the knees, just a fraction, like a micro bend, so that I'm definitely not pressing the knees back, but I'm trying to tilt the pelvis into a neutral position. So for most of us, the pelvis kind of tilts down towards the floor, the pubic bone goes down. So you're going to draw that back in a little bit, draw the belly in, and just have the palms of your hands face forward so the front of your chest has a chance to open up, and relax those shoulders down. Consider the position of your head as well. You want to try and keep that level. Appreciate when you're looking at a screen on a video that that might not be level with your eyes, so do your best. Just breathe in slowly. And allow yourself to start to stretch your toes. So you know how you can kind of piano wiggly finger and amuse yourself? Do the same with your toes. Allow yourself to lift your big toe, roll it out to the little toe. Bring the big toe down and the middle toes and back into little toe. You might rock around a little bit. Your feet will rock around as well. That's okay. I can't help do that without getting my fingers to join in as well. Take a little breath from there. I'm going to take the feet just a fraction wider, so they're now nearer the width of my shoulders, and take my hands gently onto my hips and start to do some little hula hooping. So just drawing that around gently. Now those circles will get bigger slowly as your body warms up, but just take it easy. The muscles down the side of the body, and particularly into the sort of side edge of the lower back, can be weak spots. So we want to warm them up rather than trying to get them to be longer or stronger or anything like that. So we keep these kind of gentle. And we'll take it in the opposite direction as well. Gives the hips a little bit of a chance to wake up, and also allows you to find out how your knees and your ankles generally feel. Come back into the center, or slowly lift the hands up towards the sky, and just interlace the hands and allow the index finger to point up. I'm going to take that into a side bend over towards the left. Now, rather than coming down deep, allow yourself to stretch up and out, and press down through your right foot. As you exhale, bring yourself back. Take a breath in. Use your exhale to go out to the opposite side. Okay, allow yourself to lengthen out. So you're going to feel that lower back pulling down the side of your body. Come back in. And the reason we press into the foot on the opposite leg is to get that leg to engage as well. Help support the lower back muscles and mid back muscles. So just drawing yourself gently from side to side. We've got one more side to go to. Back in. We'll let the hands come back down from the front of the mat. So I'm going to bring the feet back into that hip distance. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Let's sit down into a chair pose. So it's going to allow the knees to come down gently over the toes. It's going to feel quite a big stretch in the back of the calves and into the sort of lower part of the calf muscle running into the back of the Achilles. We'll slowly sit ourselves down a little deeper, and keeping the belly in, and the spine long, just extend the hands out. Now we're trying to try and keep the knees the same distance apart as the feet, so allow yourself to have a little look, and then just taking the eyes forwards again. Let's take a couple more breaths here. Try and widen the shoulders out, really keep them nice and relaxed, but the arms active. And then bring the hands in towards your heart. We'll lengthen the legs out, hinge forwards, bring the hands onto the shins. So making a nice right angle with the body. Just being careful again not to press the knees back. And on the exhale, just slide the hands down, the shins towards the floor, let the spine roll in. Inhale the hands back away from the floor up towards the hips, palms facing up, lengthening the body forwards at the same time. And then exhale, hands and body back down to the floor. Inhaling up. And exhaling down. I'm taking a little bit of time to explore how the muscles in your back feel. And how many there are. And their relationship with each other in terms of movements. It's picking up on the refinement of how the muscles work together in groups throughout your body. Come up for the last time. Bring the hands to the floor, and we'll step it back into a down dog. So allow yourself to adjust. And you can walk your down dog out if that feels natural to do so, or you can be still. You can put a very big bend into the knees if you want to allow the spine to lengthen out a little bit more. And that's good if you're a little bit tight in those upper shoulders. And middle shoulders sort of into the middle back area. If that's tight, bending the knees can help. If you're going with straight legs, see if you can press the heels a little towards the back of the mat. So you start to feel kind of a little bit of a tractional stretch on the ball joints of your feet as you try and take your legs towards the back of the mat. And obviously drawing the belly in and lifting the hips high. Try and get that nice line between wrists, shoulders, and hips. Take a little breath from there. Allow ourselves to come into plank. We'll ease our way back into our down dog. Come forwards into the plank. So moving deliberately slowly, keeping the hips high and pressing out through the heels, lifting ourselves back up again. We'll come forwards one more time. And move back gently into the down dog and walk the hands towards the feet. So we're at the back of the mat into a forward fold. And as you arrive, allow yourself to wriggle your feet out as wide as the mat. And just then turn the heels in, toes out. Let yourself squat down a little bit. So your bottom's going to be at least as low as your knees. Let your body sink and roll down. Nice roundy back, head down to the floor. And on the exhale, draw the belly in, drive through the legs. Allow yourself to lift up slowly. Let the arms float out to the side. Enjoy that breath into the sky. And if you can, look towards the hands a little bit. Take it into a tiny bit of a back bend and bring the hands in towards your heart. Zigzag the toes back in, and we'll walk out, stretch, wriggle towards the front of the mat. Front of the mat, we'll bring the hands in towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. So a little softness in the knees, as much as you need. Coming down towards the ground. Stepping back into our down dog. Come forwards into the plank. Take a little breath. Knees to the ground. Take a breath here. Roll the elbows back. Chest to the ground. Slide the feet away. So low cobra. Inhale your chest from the floor. Keep the thighs on the ground. Lengthen the legs away. Try and roll the heels out as you lift up. Very little weight in those hands. Only coming up until you get to the point of the last rib. Don't lift any higher than that. Take a couple more breaths in. Now bring the hands down towards the bottom of the ribs. Squeeze the shoulders back a little bit. Press on the exhale. Come back up onto all fours, tucking the toes underneath. I'm going to sit onto the heels, head to the ground, so mini kind of child's pose. And then lift the knees away from the ground, back into my down dog. Take a little breath and step right and left into the front of the mat, forward bend. Hands on the hips, and we come up. We'll take it into a little back bend again. As the hands come to the sky, in through the heart, and exhale down to the floor. Step it back into our down dog. Come forward into our plank. Knees to the ground, elbows back, chest to the ground, slide the feet away. Low cobras again. Try to keep the elbows moving in towards the side of the body. And we're careful not to pull on the neck. So the lift, and the lift at the head comes from the fact that the body is moving away from the floor. Last lift up. And we'll bring those hands back down to the bottom of the ribs, shoulders back. Come up onto the knees, back onto the heels, the toes are tucked under, head to the floor. Take a breath in, and allow yourself to move into your down dog. This time we'll take the left and then right into the front of the mat, hands onto the hips and lift up. A little back bend, hands through the heart. Hinge over the hips down to the floor. Step it back into your down dog. And then move into the plank again. This time we're going to let the knees come right down underneath the hips for cat-cows. Drawing the chest forwards. We're going to float seamlessly. Tucking the tailbone under. Letting the spine ripple out towards the sky. I'll come back into neutral and take melting heart. So the hands come forward, the hips stay where they are. We'll press down into the shins a little bit. Let the hands slide through to the front of the mat. Let the chest come towards the ground. I'm going to draw the belly in rather than letting the chest sink down and really put a lot of strain into the shoulder blades and shoulder joints. I'm actually going to try and keep a nice line between the hands, the shoulders, and the belly. So the chest is perhaps a little lifted higher than you're able to get to. But I want you to work into pressing the arms down into the floor and getting the back of your triceps to start to join in as well. You're balancing through your biceps. You'll feel your chest muscles work more rather than stretching. Slightly different feeling. And then to come out of that, we're just going to walk the fingers back a little bit. Bring ourselves back into child's pose. We'll come back up onto all fours. Tuck the toes underneath. And allow ourselves to scissor the right leg to the sky, trying to keep the hips square, point out through the toes. We'll come into a three-legged plank this time. Take a little breath, press our way out. Bring the foot to the floor. Left leg comes up. Nice long stretch. Keep the legs strong and long as you come forwards into your plank. Allow yourself to press back out. Bring the foot to the floor. We'll take a little breath. Walk the hands in towards the feet, towards the back of the mat. Bring the hands onto the hips, shoulders and elbows back. So those legs are starting to warm up a little bit. They might get a little straighter as you come into your forward bends. We'll walk it into the front of the mat again. We'll take a little breath, one more back bend, hands to the sky. in towards the heart, and exhale down to the floor. Step it back into our down dog. Come forwards into plank, knees to the floor. Now pivot on the knees, take the feet out to the side, allow ourselves to sit down onto our bottoms. You want to be able to be in a position that when you lean back, your head is going to be on the mat rather than hanging out to the side. So just take the hands behind, draw the belly in a little bit, roll the spine down to the floor. Take a breath there and walk the feet in towards your bottom. Now just wriggle tailbone away towards the front end of the mat. Wriggle the shoulder blades under. Get them as flat to the ground. Get your back as low to the floor as you can. And bring your hands alongside your body, palms face down. Wriggle the shoulders underneath a little bit. And then lift your knees just gently above your hips. And draw your lower back to the floor and start to press the hands, the elbows, the back of the shoulders into the floor. But also try and draw your belly and your lower spine to the ground at the same time. So even just doing that, I can feel the whole of my body starting to tremble and shake. Now, added to that, I'm going to lengthen the legs up towards the sky, perfectly straight, or as close as you can. Squeezing the thighs together a little and pointing the toes, keeping the belly in. We're going to let one leg, so I'm going to take my left leg all the way to the ground. Stop 1/2 inch from the floor and let myself lift back up. Now, to do these very slowly, bring the feet back together again, just touch the toes and then allow that right leg to come down and lift back up. So the reason I want to work slowly is I want to be able to keep my lower back drawing down to the floor and those arms and shoulders pressing down. If you start to move too quickly, the pelvis tends to rock out from underneath you and tilt. And then, apart from the fact you risk injuring yourself, you don't get the full benefit of aligning your body and stabilizing that we could do. So we want to be as efficient as we can. Try and keep the legs, both legs straight, pointing out through the toes. And we'll come back up. We'll bring the bend into the knees and let the feet come to the floor close to your bottom. Allow the arms to come out wide in line with your chest. And we'll simply take the legs over towards the right. Now, if you're able to keep your shoulders easily to the ground, allow the head to move over to the left a little bit. And we're going to go the opposite direction, whereas that was really pulling all the muscles together. This is about trying to let every single muscle fiber in your body relax. And just breathe. The heart might be racing a little bit after that effort. Chance to bring it back down. And slowly exhale the legs back up to the center line. Realign if you need to and roll over to the second side. Again, just allow yourself to see how well you do with keeping your shoulders on the ground before you turn the head. We try to let the bottom leg sink as low as we can. Generally, we're looking for that to reach down towards the floor. But if you're a runner or a cyclist, you've got tight hips, the leg muscles aren't used to going out to the side quite so much. You might find that a bit of a struggle to start with. Top leg just floats. We don't worry about keeping the legs together. We're looking to relax. Okay, now bring the knees back up. And bring the hands back into that same position, pressing them down towards the floor. So just a little wriggle of the shoulders underneath. Allow yourself to draw your spine down to the floor. Bring the knees just above your hips. Rearrange the spine. If it moved, and extend the legs out. Now this time you're going to keep both legs together. With your eyes open, but looking towards the ceiling, you're going to let your legs come forwards about halfway down. So usually when your toes start to get out of the vision line, then you need to start bringing them back in. And again, we're going to move very slowly with these legs to see if we can get 90 degrees from the body and then 45 degrees as we lengthen out, but keeping the spine flat to the floor, and also try to press those hands, the shoulder blades and elbows down to the ground as well. So just as before, the whole of my body was kind of shaking as I came into the pose, and it's not getting any less shaky as we go through it. So using the exhale to lower the legs as a guide, bringing the feet back up on the inhale, trying to smooth along. Now my leg muscles are telling me to go at one speed, but I'm using my breath so that I can maintain working at a different speed. And come down for the last time. And allow the legs to come back up. Moving towards the chest this time. And we just let the hands sit on top of the knees and make some nice big juicy circles with the knees in the air. So I'm taking the right to the right, left to the left. Using the breath in and the knees down the center line. And exhaling them out and away. Now this time the pelvis, I do want to let it twist and tilt and rock around a little bit. In fact, I'm even going to take it a step further by seeing if I can take one knee in one direction and one knee in the other. So I maximize the work through the hips, but also through the sacrum and a little bit into the lower back muscles. A few times in the opposite way. And then I'm going to bring the knees back in towards the body, roll onto my right side, press the hands into the floor as the chest comes towards the ground, lift up, spin back into all fours, front of the mat. Take a little breath, lift the knees away from the ground, down dog, and then just walk the toes in, straightest legs, small steps, a few inches at a time, into the front of the mat, lifting up onto the fingertips as I need, into a forward bend, right at the front end of the mat. Bring the hands onto the hips, soft knees, and let myself lift. I'll take the hands high, but looking forwards this time, so hands just directly over the head, towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor, take a breath, right foot into the lunge, make it long. Use the fingertips, keep the chest lifted, let the hip drop a little bit. Feet are still hip distance apart. I'm going to plant the right hand, take a twist into the left. And then I'm going to bring the left hand onto the inside of that front foot. See if I can slowly open up and take the right hand towards the sky. And bring that back down to the floor. Bring both hands either side, frame the front foot. Drop the back heel in, warrior two. I'm going to bring the hands alongside the body and lift a little, and then take the right hand forwards and lengthen out and open up. It's my warrior two. I'm going to float the arms high again, lengthen out over the front leg and down to the floor. Stepping back into my down dog, just adjust the distance. Come into the plank, push forwards on the tippy toes, half plank, bootlaces down for up dog. Nice breath in. Back into down dog. I'm going to scissor the right leg. Again, making an effort to keep the hips square, keeping the weight even through the shoulders, knee into the chest, through to the front of the mat. Lunging into the second side, pressing out through the heel. Push off the toes, front of the mat. Land, feet hip distance apart, parallel. Easy way to the sky. Draw the ribs down as the hands come up over your head and towards your heart. And back down to the floor. Left leg back into the lunge. Again, make it long. Plant the left hand, right arm lifts into the twist. Hand comes to the floor on the inside. Slowly Rotate the body. Extend that left hand. Keep the back leg strong. Tends to get a little bit wobbly as we fight with our balance. Bring the hands either side, lift onto the fingertips. Drop the heel in, warrior twos to lift. Hands come high. Rotate in, extend out. Keep the back foot pressing into the ground. We step back into our down dog. We come forwards into plank, half plank. Don't come down too low. Inhale, roll the shoulders back a little into our down dog. Left leg scissors. Knee into the chest. Foot through for the lunge. Breath in. Use your exhale to fold into the front of the mat. Hands onto the hips and inhale your way up. Hands into the heart. And exhale down to the floor. Right foot to the back of the mat into a lunge. Going to take the twist again. Left arm comes up. Hand comes onto the inside. This time we're going to drop the back heel down where we are and allow ourselves to open up that right arm towards the sky. Lift up onto the fingertips. And bring ourselves slowly into our warrior two. Now bring the hands towards the sky, towards the ground on the inside of the front foot. Going to drop the back knee down to the floor, spin the front foot out about 45 degrees, let the knee hang out to the side. You're going to open up and rotate the chest round as far as I can. Bringing the hand back down, either side of the front foot, lifting the back knee, dropping the heel in, warrior two. Dynamic lift, right arm comes forwards, lifting up. Float the arms high, down to the floor. Stepping back into our down dog. Ready for plank, half plank and up dogs. Just pushing forwards. Inhale to come up, strong legs, bootlaces pressing down. Down dog, scissor the right leg as we did before. Knee to the chest, foot through. Fingertip lift for breath in. Stepping into that front of the mat. Hands onto the hips, we lift up. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. And exhale down. Left leg back. Right arm lifts. Hand comes to the floor. Drop the back heel in. Slowly open up. And then come up onto the fingertips. So there's very little weight allowed in the hands, returning the chest alongside of the mat. We're kind of pressing the arm and the leg together, but since you're on fingertips, there's not a great deal of counterlevering you can achieve. Exhale into our warrior two. Take a little breath from there. Inhale the hands high. Lengthen out back to the ground. Take a little breath. Allow the back knee to come down. Bring the hand on the inside. Let the leg just turn out a little bit on this front foot. And we're going to take the twist. Rotate the spine round so that left hand is moving quite a long way over towards the right side of the mat. Bring the hands back either side, spinning the foot in. Lift the back knee, warrior two. Hands alongside. We'll take the hand forwards and up. Bring ourselves up into warrior two and down to the floor. Step it back into our down dog. Travel forwards into our plank. To up dog. To down dog. Scissor the left leg. Lean towards the chest and through. From the lunge, we press forwards on the exhale. Hands onto the hips and we lift up. Inhale high again, hands above the head and towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Taking the right foot back into the lunge. Left hand opens up into the twist. Comes to the floor on the inside of the front foot. Keeping the back heel lifted. We open up to the right slowly. Now try and keep that back heel pointing towards the sky. Hands come to the floor. Either side, framing the front foot, we step back into down dog. Come forwards into plank. We're going to take side plank, keeping the hips high and pressing the shoulders away from the floor. We'll roll the feet over towards the left, keeping the hips high, right arm lifts. We'll come back down to the ground. Swap it over to the other side. So one foot is on the edge, one foot is flat, legs are pressing down. We'll bring that back again. We'll take a little breath. And we're going to go to the left, but this time we're going to take a breath here. Once we're over, move the right foot about halfway up the mat, and then press down through the foot as we lift the right hand. Sorry, press the right foot and left hand up towards the sky. So we're trying to get those hips to be higher than the shoulders. Takes a little bit of weight out of that front arm. Bring them back in, step it back into the plank. We'll go to the right. Left leg comes forwards. The arm lifts. We lift the hips again that little bit. Just that little couple of inches fires everything up. Really gets into the obliques. Back down towards the ground. Take a little breath. Come forwards into your half plank. Allow yourself to up dog. Back into your down dog. You're going to scissor the right leg, knee in towards the chest, putting the foot through, drop the heel in. Take warrior two. Inhale high. Take the hands all the way to the front of the mat, down to the floor, and we're simply going to step into the front of the mat. Hands come onto the hips, and we lift. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. And exhale to the floor. The step, left and right, back into, and we're not. We want the right foot forwards, left foot back. I'll get there one day. It's all right, I messed this up the other day. We'll take the right hand to the sky, take a little breath, down to the floor. Again, slow. Open up into the twist. This is harder than when we have the knee to the ground. Down to the floor. Bring the hands either side of the front foot. Step it back into the plank. Over to the left. Right arm lifts. Down to the floor. Align. Take it to the opposite side. And to the ground. Go to the left again. Bring the right foot halfway along the mat. Press the hips high. Down to the floor. Step it back to the opposite side. Foot comes forward, we lift. Down to the ground. Back into plank, half plank. Up dog. To down dog. We'll scissor the left leg. Lean towards the chest. Foot through. Drop the back heel for warrior two. Hands alongside. Inhale it up. Float the hands to the sky. Towards the front of the mat. And again, step it in. Front of the mat. Take a little breath. Bring the hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Now I'm going to take the right and the left leg back into down dog. And the scissor of the right leg comes forward into a three-legged plank. We'll take that into a three-legged half plank. Bring the foot down. Both toes roll under for up dog. We'll take it back into our down dog. Now this time we'll scissor the left leg. Draw the knee in towards the chest. Bring the foot through to the front of the mat and let the back knee down gently to the floor as we untuck the toes. We're going to slide the fingers back behind the line of the heel. Tuck the toes back underneath once you've done that. Allow yourself to straighten the front leg as you start to move your hips towards the back of the mat, drawing the belly in. Now try and keep the toes on the ground for as long as you can. And then slowly start to pivot on that heel and allow the toes to come up towards the sky. We're going to slide the heel along the floor and allow yourself to sit back onto your heel. Now your mat probably will come with you. Don't worry, we'll just move that back out a little bit later. Forwards again. Ourselves to just adjust the mat. Got a different sticky mat. Need a slightly slippier one. Take your back knee away from the floor. And step into the front of the mat. Hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift. Come high again. Hands in towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Step back into our down dog. The left leg lifts this time. And we'll take a three-legged plank, three-legged half plank. Boot laces come down for up dog, changing the feet. Back into down dog. Right leg lifts to the scissor, knee to the chest, foot comes through. So we're doing the same as we did last time. Back knee down. Take a moment to untuck your toes and then just adjust your fingers back. Then tuck the toes back underneath. Allow yourself to sit back. And try and keep the body high. Press those toes down into the floor. Getting this leg to straighten out as much as we can. Now, obviously, the degree of flexion you've got in the foot comes into play a little bit here. On the exhale, we're going to slowly pivot on that heel and let the foot draw in. And bring ourselves down to sit on that heel, keeping the body long. The fingers are outstretched a little bit. Press out through the heel, the long leg, just a little. Last couple of breaths. And ease our way back up. And we just wriggle around with the mat to get it flat. Got super sticky mats here. Take a little breath. Lift the back knee. Step it into that forward fold. This will hang over the hips a little, just for a moment. A little sway from side to side if that feels good for you. Now, hopefully you did take my recommendations and have your bricks close to the front of the mat. So we'll bring them towards the front end of the mat on the high end, and then we're going to place the heel of the hand, the palm of the hand onto the blocks and push down a little bit so we get a nice, just sort of close feeling of stretching the back of the legs out nice and cleanly so they're as open as they can be. Feet are hip distance apart. Now you want your hands, the blocks, to be just a little bit more towards you than directly underneath your shoulders, just a fraction. Because as we move back into pyramid, the blocks just end up a little bit too far away if your arms are short. I've got long arms, so I don't need to worry too much. The belly drawn in, we're going to soften the left knee just a fraction and slide the right foot back. And trying to keep it the same distance apart as it started. Once your big toe just starts to lift away from the ground back there, you're going to slowly roll into the ball of the foot. Keep pressing the hands down lightly into the blocks. And see if you can get the heels to the ground and two straight legs. You're actually going to try and keep the shoulders away from the ears a little bit. So think about spreading them out wide away from the ears and keeping the head in line with your body and the belly just drawn in lightly. And pressing down through the ball joint of the front foot actually makes it a little more comfortable in the back of the leg on that front leg. Seems strange. Seems like it's the last thing you want to do. It actually is more comfy. Almost there. And I'm going to soften the front knee, bring ourselves back into the initial position. Just making sure the feet are parallel, lengthen the spine out. Take a breath or two here, just relax the shoulders, get the length in the spine. Moving from sort of working hard to just sort of having a little bit of a pit stop. And then we'll soften the right knee, take the left foot back till we run out of toes. And you know you've reached the point you need to start putting the heel to the floor. It's that little bit of a stretch out again towards the front of the mat on the hands. You press them down lightly into the floor so you can feel the arms working. Pressing the back foot, front foot into the ground neatly. Sending the tailbone towards the back of the mat, just a fraction. Now trying to keep your heart to your belly button and your pubic bone over the center line of your mat. So if you notice that your tail is kind of twisting off to one side, it might be that you need to move your rear foot either further in or out, depending on which way you're swaying. Almost there. Still pressing there. Okay, we're going to soften the front knee and bring ourselves forwards again. And exhale all the way to the ground. And move those blocks just out to the side, out of the way. We'll bring the hands onto the hips again. Lengthen the spine, lift ourselves up. Put the hands high on the inhale. Then we'll come down to the floor and step it back, ready for warrior two, leading with the right leg. Bring the hands alongside the body, we'll lift up. As we arrive, we're going to straighten the front leg, sink into that front hip a little, lengthen out. Come into triangle pose. We want to go long and slow first, then bring the hand down. So I'm just bringing the hand on the inside of the ankle and shin. Now, if you feel you need to hold your hand on top of the ankle and shin, or even bring yourself up quite a lot higher, then please do so. But we're trying to rotate the body around to the long side of the mat. Press the hips a little to the right side of the mat, just a fraction. We'll move from there back into warrior two and turn the palm on the front hand. Take the hand high, we're going to move into reverse warrior. We'll start to walk the rear hand down. And just be conscious your front leg doesn't drop in. Keep it moving towards the little toe and the back leg strong, pressing down. Come back into our warrior two. Take the hands high and come down to the floor. Take a little breath from the lunge. Step it into the forward bend. Hands onto the hips to lift up. Softness in the knees. Hands high, looking forwards. Into the heart. I'm going to lead with the left leg into our warrior. Allow yourself to make these as long as you can. As alongside the body. Draw ourselves up. We slowly begin to straighten the front leg. Sink into the front hip and then lengthen out slowly. So you're moving over the top of the hip joint a little bit. It kind of feels like that anyway. And then the hand comes down. Rotate to the side. Hips move very lightly and slightly towards the left side of the mat. Again, we try and press down through this ball joint front foot. We'll soften back into our warrior two. Take the top arm high, bottom arm drops, and then we'll walk slowly into that reverse warrior. Try and relax the shoulders if they've jammed up a little. Last breath in. Back into warrior two. Hands come high. Down to the floor. Step it back to down dog this time. Bring ourselves into plank. Push forwards on the tippy toes, knees to the floor. Chest down. Slide the feet back. Now you want to have the feet about hip distance apart. You're going to take a couple of breaths here. Just going to bring the hands underneath the forehead. Shoulders out to the side, elbows out to the side, and then wriggle the hips out just a little. So we're trying to lengthen and relax the lower spine a little bit. These muscles have been working pretty hard this morning, lifting us and dropping us back in safely. Now I'm going to take frog pose. So it looks very similar to bow pose, but there are some subtle differences. To start with, we're going to try and keep the chest on the ground. We're going to bend the right knee first of all. Press the thigh down into the floor a little bit and sweep that heel as close into your butt as you can. Now, taking the right hand back, allow yourself to bring the palm of your hand onto the shoelace side of your foot. And then ease the heel a little more in towards the sitting bone. Same time pressing the hips down into the floor, lengthening the thigh out a little bit. So the elbow points towards the sky and we squeeze the shoulder blades up towards the ceiling a little bit as well. Once you've done that, take the left leg in, chin on the ground. Do the same whilst holding on to the right. Bring the heels in towards the sitting bone rather than the outer hip. Try and keep the thighs parallel and press them down to the floor, elbows high, and squeeze the shoulder blades lightly towards the center line and towards the ceiling. Hope you can still hear that whilst I'm mumbling into the floor. And we'll release. And allow the feet to come to the ground again. Bring the hands back underneath the forehead. Relax the shoulders a little bit. And wriggle out the hips. So that would have felt like you were stretching out, hopefully, the front side of your thighs. You were trying to take your knees towards the end of the mat. And not too much compression in your lower back. Now this version, we come into bow pose. We're actually going to try and lift the chest away from the ground a little bit and draw the chest forwards But to start with, I'm just going to bend the right knee and take the right hand back. Now this time I'm going to hold on to the ankle joint with the hands around the outside. Press the thigh down into the floor a little bit. Chin off the ground just a fraction as you take your other hand back. Find the other ankle. To start with, you're drawing the heels in towards your bottom. Now start to bend your elbows. Allow your chest to lift away from the ground, keeping your thighs on the floor. You get a little squeeze going on. You're actually trying to bring the legs down towards the ground and lengthen away a little bit as well. From there, we're going to flex the ankles so we get stronger connection to the hand. And we'll start to press the shins towards the back of the mat. So you'll get a little bit more lift of your chest away from the ground. You'll take a breath from there, and then on the exhale, press the soles of the feet towards the sky as well. Hold and breathe. Keeping the spine long. Try and lengthen it out of the pelvis. Try and draw it up and forwards. And then we'll come back down to the floor. And release the feet. Bring those hands back underneath the forehead. Shake it all out. I'm going to keep the head same end of the mat. Roll over onto my spine. Hopefully your head will actually be on the mat rather than hanging over. So just adjust if you need to. Let the feet come in towards your bottom so the knees are high again on the center line, and roll those shoulders underneath. We'll take the arms out again in line with the chest. We'll take a little breath from here. And allow the legs to roll over towards the right. Lift the knees. Bring them back to the center. Roll it out to the opposite side. And lift the knees back into the center. And take my left leg up towards the sky and cross over the legs, bringing the foot down. So I got that sort of sitting at the desk cross-legged look a little bit. And then I'm going to let the legs roll over towards the right. So a little bit more weight of the legs, a little more joined together. And ease back into the center. Untangle the legs. Okay, get to the final side. Slowly bring everything back up. Untangle the legs. And we'll get ready for Shavasana. Slide my feet out gently to the corner edges of the mat, keeping the heels in contact with the ground as I go. And a few inches from the side of the body, palms facing it. Wriggle your hips, your shoulders, fingers and toes. Allow yourself to lick your lips a couple of times and keep that jaw soft. The eyes very gently shut. Muscles around the eyes soften. And as you exhale, let yourself sink layer by layer into the mat. We'll begin to wriggle those fingers and toes. Let the wrists and the ankles join in gently as well, just to connect the body back in. Breathe a little deeper as well. Use that extra energy to stretch out in any way that feels good. Just follow your instincts for the stretch. And then slide the heels again in towards the body. Let one leg come in at a time. Keep it really soft and easy in the back muscles. Just a really gentle hug, a little rock. And we'll roll onto our right side. Keeping the knees in. Begin to turn the chest to the floor. Allow the hands to press down. Smoothly bring ourselves back up to sitting. Just coming into a seated posture that feels comfortable. And allow the hands to come in towards the heart. Take a little breath as you breathe in. eyes closed, and allow yourself to gently bring your chin towards your chest, bowing softly to the floor, sealing your practice. Inhale, letting the breath come back into the body, lifting the head, open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. See you on the mat again soon.